Okay, good afternoon. Again, like everyone else, I'm really pleased to be here, very humbled to be on this particular panel. So I guess there's two things that I bring to the table. One is in my professional life, I work as a psychologist in business. I work in the field of leadership and management, but I don't think that's why I was invited to speak on the panel. It's because, as you've heard, I'm the chair of Limud. For those of you that don't know anything about Limud, my first question is, where have you been? And just to give you a little bit, and I'm just going to describe a bit about our values because that's what brings me to my comments this afternoon. Our values and our principles are what brings me to my view on young leadership today. So Limud, for those of you that don't know, is one of the most exciting, innovative, creative, dynamic organizations across the Jewish world. Our mission is to take everybody one step further on their Jewish journey. And we do this through volunteer-led conferences, residential and non-residential, that are totally conceived, designed, run, managed by volunteers. And I really mean that. People who have jobs, who study, and usually have lots of other volunteer activities as well. And our humble beginnings began 32 years ago in England, and we're now, as you heard, in 60 communities around the world. Just last week, in case you didn't know, you missed events in Moldova, China, Baltimore, and Sydney. So we're very proud of the difference that we have made. So as I say, we are a volunteer-led organization, and we have some very core principles and values that I think is what enables our volunteers and our leaders to take the roles that they do. So just a couple of those that I think are important for you to understand my context and where I come from. So one is about empowerment. We truly, and I quote, inspire people to be ambitious about their contribution. We allow our volunteers and our leaders to take roles. If they say, I want to get involved, we say, that's great. Why don't you chair this conference? Why don't you run this event? And that's really important to me and when I talk more about where I think our young leaders are today. The second one is that we encourage diversity. If you come to any of our events, we are one of the only organizations in the Jewish world that attracts people from every aspect of that Jewish world, from the very secular to the unaffiliated or uninspired, depending on which sessions you went to yesterday, all the way through to the more orthodox or people that are already affiliated with different organizations. And we attract people of every single generation. So it's very common when you come to our events to find 3 and sometimes 4 generations of a family learning together. That means that our leaders in our organization are from an incredibly diverse and broad range of backgrounds. And the third value that is relevant for this discussion is that we truly have respect for each other, and our arguments are there for the sake of heaven. We believe that having differences between people help us, they educate us, they enhance our own development. So we encourage difference as long as we're all there for the same reason. And again, that reflects in our pool of leaders and volunteers in our organization. So what does that mean for us as an organization? It means we create events for ourselves, by ourselves, and we inspire people. We inspire people to go further on their Jewish journey, either within our own community or elsewhere. And we're very proud of some of the other organizations and events that have spun off from conversations, usually very late at night in our bars. So there are 2 questions that we were posed. One was about where are our rising stars? Are they here or are they ducking their responsibility? I'm feeling very optimistic about where our rising stars are. I think they're absolutely right in front of us. I think we certainly have people within our organization who are taking on very significant leadership roles now, or I can identify those that will be there in a couple of years' time. Just to give you an example, the main conference that we have in Limud is still the one in the UK. It's in December. We have about 2,500 people. We have about 450 presenters, 1,200 sessions. You're all very welcome. And the small group of 20 volunteers that put that together, on average, are all under the age of 30. That's where our leaders are. They are there. They are doing. They are acting now as leaders and making a massive difference to our community. I also recently, last week, was sitting with the Chief Rabbi of the UK and also Professor Ron Heifetz from Harvard, and we were celebrating 20 years of a leadership program in the UK. And again, there in front of us were 250 young people who already are engaging in a huge range of organizations, making a difference in every aspect of Jewish life, both in the UK and more broadly. So I reflected on this and thought, okay, so we have our leaders, they're there, they're stepping up, but we still have challenges. And I believe that the challenges that we're facing are within our communities and within our infrastructure and the structure that is there, not because of the individuals themselves. So just a couple of thoughts to share with you. One is we need to create a space for our young leaders. If we want people to step up and take on these leadership roles, some other people need to step aside. We need to make space for these people to come through and show us what they're made of and what they can do. Thank you very much. Secondly, I think we need to give people a chance. I think in Limud, compared to other organizations that I see, if somebody says they want to get involved, say they have a passion for something, we pretty much let them get on with it. We don't have a big hierarchy. We don't have lots of levels that you have to get through. And I think it's right in our community that we take a little bit of a chance and a risk on some people, because in my experience, it always pays off. We need to also remove some barriers that are in our community, and it's sort of what I touched on already about some of the diversity that we see in Limud and we don't see elsewhere, okay? You look around most of the global community, Jewish community, and I am generalizing, most of the leaders in senior positions are generally men. I'm delighted that this panel is slightly swayed in the opposite direction. They're mostly men, they're mostly older, and a big problem is that many of them are wealthy. I mean, that's a good thing. But they're in the leadership positions because of what they bring to the table in that context, not because necessarily of the skills and the impact and the difference that they can make to their organization. And Limud bucks that trend. Okay, that's not what we see at all in terms of the leaders that we have across the world. And the final thing on this point about where are our leaders, I think also we have to think a little bit about managing the expectations as well of people that want to become leaders. I think we need to move away from this idea that it's about job title and status and role. And I would foresee much more that we talk about acts of leadership, that we allow people an opportunity to step up and take acts of leadership, even if they're not named as a leader in an organization. There are lots and lots of opportunities. It's something that Ron Heifetz talked about in terms of leading without authority. There are lots of opportunities where people can step up, take charge, take the lead without necessarily being the most senior person. Am I allowed to keep going? Okay, I'll talk very quickly. The second thing was about whether or not there is a profile of what is a really effective Jewish leader. And actually, I don't believe there is. I think that would be a shame if we said that you have to fit this kind of box. I can tell you what I think it isn't. I don't think being a Jewish leader is about going on a power trip. I don't think it's about ego. I don't think it's about telling people what to do. I think there are some core things that are really important to what makes a really effective Jewish leader. One is that idea of just stepping up and taking responsibility, seeing that something needs doing and stepping up and doing it. I think it's about believing in the people that you lead. It's really about building relationships so you truly believe that you're all on the same page and that you're driving towards a clear vision. Something that the chief rabbi said, he recently talked about 7 principles of effective leadership. One of the things he said is that being a leader is stressful and emotionally demanding. I absolutely concur with that. I think it's a really tough job. I think to be a leader, you have to be resilient, you have to be thick-skinned, but you know what? We do it anyway because it's something that we truly believe in. So to finish off, I think our leaders are there. I absolutely think we need to create the space for them. I think there are 2 other core things. I think you have to step up and want to do it, and I think you have to find a passion. I think you have to find the thing that really speaks to you, and if we help our leaders do that, then I think the future looks very optimistic. Thank you.